fiscal year 2027 for the Milton Planning Board. At this time, I would like to now call the meeting to order and begin by introductions of the board and our staff. Hal, if you'd like to start.
Hal Munger, member.
Maggie Oldfield, member.
Sean Fahey, member.
Cheryl
Earl Tagayas, member and secretary.
and Meredith Hall serving as chair, and with us with our staff this evening, Vontae.
Yeah, Avante Grady, Assistant Planning Director.
Liz Manning, planning director.
Great, thank you. We can start first with administrative items. We do have some edited meeting minutes, but they were late to getting into the folder, so I just don't know if members had a chance to look at them or not. I
Did not.
did not have a chance. Okay, understood. And I did read them, but let's defer those to our next meeting. Future meeting dates. Currently, we have scheduled a meeting for August 13th would be the next meeting. And I spoke to Liz today. I have a conflict on the 13th. I'm wondering if, and maybe we can wait to decide later this evening, but either moving it, doing it the week before if we think there's some housekeeping things we need to finish on with our short-term rental bylaw, or doing it maybe on the 12th, the Wednesday before, would also be a possibility. If we met in 2 weeks on August 6th, would that work for people? Instead of the
I would
13th?
prefer sticking to this Thursday
We-
schedule. The
the
6th would be
Thursday-
great.
This is,
Yeah,
okay, that's
sorry.
what, the Thursdays seem to
Yeah.
work well. So,
Oh, sorry, which day
August
doesn't work for you?
the 13th, so
Okay.
it would be the Thursday before,
Okay.
which is 2 weeks from today.
So we could potentially meet the 6th and then the 27th.
And then the 27th
Okay.
would be the following,
I would be okay with that.
if that's okay. All right, that's great. So August 6th,
I may have to call into that potentially,
okay,
if that's acceptable. I
Yep.
may already be on the road at that
Okay.
point.
yeah, you're heading out of town.
Yeah, it's not, but I'll do my best, but I may have to do that one virtually.
Yep, okay, the 6th,
and then then we'll do the zoning hearing then on the 27th. I
okay,
won't have enough time to get that advertised for the 6th.
that sounds great,
Okay.
okay, great. And staff update,
Yeah,
Do you want me to share screen on the, well, why don't you start and I'll pull up the matrix while you're sharing.
Sure. Just want to provide an update on the open space and rec plan. So I uploaded the summaries for the last 2 focus groups to the materials folder. So feel free to take a look at those. Great feedback was from those. Have still been in contact with the Commission on Disability. Had a call with the chair last Friday. She said she hasn't finished putting together her list of feedback. I think she's got some personal stuff she's been dealing with, so engagement's been a little bit slow, but still determined to get at least feedback from like 2 to 3 members from the commission. So their perspective is reflected in this ADA plan, which I still think is very important to include in the open space plan. So other than that, my priorities are kind of focusing on finishing up the important aspects of the inventory, and thinking about the meetings ahead, which include like a public meeting and meetings with the open space and rec committee. So great.
Anything else?
Let's see if I can provide an update on Vision Zero. It's probably not organized in this list, but
Or do you want me to grab, why don't you pop in when, so this is sort of a new initiative to try to kind of keep this matrix fresh and to use it as a way to sort of help us follow, kind of progress in the office and things we're working on. So the goal is to have this updated monthly. So the version that you guys were looking at, the night we went in front, had the joint meeting with the select board was the June version, so this would be the July version. And so as a, kind of, again, as a way to kind of stay connected to each other with all the multiple projects and what have you, and so that's the goal, is to be sharing this out monthly at a minimum. And so just to kind of, and the way this is structured is the highlighted cells are the ones that have additional information included. If you had an opportunity to look at any of this in the last day or two, I know it's a lot of information, but let's see. This first section here, the housings category, there was a meeting with the South Shore Home Consortium to discuss a project in Braintree, additional funding for a project in Braintree. We were made aware that there's new funding available for the first-time homebuyer program. And Milton in the past wasn't really able to participate because the max amount that you could spend on a home was a lot lower than the prevailing amount in Milton, but that amount has been increased to $857,000 for purchase for a first-time home buyer. So there's a chance that Milton could maybe get a little bit more involved in that program, and that's there, and there's funding available. So I thought that was good news to share and to follow up on. And they also shared that there's about $2 million in available funds in that home consortium fund, essentially, today. So we've had a couple of meetings on the housing production plan. I know we talked about this last time. We're proposing our first public meeting for Wednesday, September 16th. A needs assessment has been drafted and stakeholder consultation is underway. Let's see, Accenture, working with Accenture, they're our shared housing support office. So actively providing information, sort of up-to-date daily information on the lease up at 936 Brush Hill Road. That's the 20-unit comprehensive permit project, which is very, very close to getting their certificate of occupancy. We are following up on monitoring for 440 Granite Ave in terms of their local action units. That's another one. Those are probably the two that are kind of like highest on the list in terms of closest to occupancy. So we're working actively with them on those projects. Avante already talked about the open space and rec plan. So the and if anyone has any questions or wants to interrupt me, I'll try to move a little faster. And in terms of climate and environment, we've got some updated information on battery energy storage systems. KP Law has provided a model process that they created for the town of Medway for this consolidated permitting process, which is a new state requirement. So we're still trying to understand exactly how that's going to work, and I would imagine that that's going to be something that's going to come back to you folks for more consultation about that consolidated permitting process that the state is now requiring for battery storage and for solar. Very kind of broad brush on that one. There's a lot more detail there.
Wait, can I, before you jump to a
Yes.
different category, so at our last climate action meeting, there was a discussion that the fire station headquarters, that the pitch of the roof might not be ideal for the most efficient solar panels.
Okay.
Do you know what the status is on that? Cause I know at town meeting, we voted to lease it out,
Okay.
so I just wasn't sure. I think that
Okay.
information was just coming in when we had our meeting last month.
I don't know anything about that, but I do remember you mentioning it though, actually, I think at our last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can definitely follow up.
And if the pitch of this roof is not the correct pitch, then I would assume that the pitch of the East Milton isn't the correct pitch either. So is the East Milton fire station not getting solar panels?
I haven't even looked at that project. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But I can definitely follow up. All right, so we're all pretty much aware based on the proposed zoning hearing ad that I put in your packet for the bylaw for for the 15% requirement under the MBTA zoning for affordable housing, that's drafted and ready to go. Let's see what else we got here. Economic development plan, so progress there. We had a meeting on Tuesday with Nick and Nick Milano and Cody Case. Do you wanna pick up that at all in
Sure.
terms of, okay.
Yeah, so we had a meeting with them, we kind of talked about the joint meeting the planning board had with the select board, and just thinking about that conversation in relation to the scope, MAPC's scope, and how that conversation went was just kind of a sense of, it seems that like the scope needs to be a little bit more expanded, so it's more broader to the town and not so much focused within like the business districts. And so some ideas were, discussed about how to do that, perhaps the focus groups, instead of doing it just in the like business, each of the business districts, doing like kind of more broader parts of town, like East Milton, West Milton, a couple other places I'm spacing off the top of my head, but
Well, we kind of discussed too, sort of like, Randolph Ave and the, the institutional, we talked a little bit about some of like, the institutional players, like a BID Milton and the Curry and Milton Academy, and, sort of like thinking, a little bit more broadly than just sort of like, just those sort of like business village shopping areas. So it's a work in progress. We're definitely, we looked really carefully at the minutes from the meeting on the 23rd, the joint meeting. And we'll be sharing out the, as we develop a modified scope. And maybe, I was hoping we might be able to go back to MAPC and see if there's any sort of their district local technical assistance funding that didn't get claimed. Because they might kind of fill that gap for us potentially, so it's worth the ask. And then that could get us back to that original number, that closer to that 100,000. Or closer to the number we wanna be at. Okay, so that is coming along. Let's see, what's on, so that Vision Zero project, did you wanna talk about that at all?
oh, sure. Yeah, so final deliverables were sent to the town on July 1st. And so, just a little bit of background on that. They delivered a report which details safety issues and recommended safety countermeasures for Squantum Street from Granite Ave to the Quincy line. The recommendations are based off crash and existing conditions analysis and an in-person safety audit held on April 9th, 2026. So with that, they provide some cost estimates as well as 3 conceptual designs. I think 2 lower in terms of cost on the lower end, and then 1 a bit on the higher end. So I heard from DPW from a meeting we had with them this week that they're working on, I think, relining some of the lines in some of the areas that are being proposed, but I think additional funds will be needed to implement some of the recommendations that are part of this Vision Zero. So they're looking at potential grant opportunities to apply for to help fill that gap. So
Is that information in our folder, or could it be?
I can share it with
Okay.
y'all. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yep, I can share those overs.
It's funny, cause it wasn't too long ago that they redid that whole intersection, the Squantum and Granite intersection, and restriped everything,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it was really recently,
It
yeah.
wasn't that long ago, but,
Yeah, that was definitely part of the conversation, was that there were pretty significant improvements made in that intersection not too long ago. I think this one bubbled up because of it's considered a high crash location.
Yeah.
And so were there even deeper, more additional things that could be implemented
Yeah.
to address that, so but yeah, we'll share that information and
Okay.
we can
Thanks.
come back to that.
that's great.
Yeah, 'cause I find it interesting on Randolph Ave, when it's a high crash issue, they decreased the number of lanes, so here they're trying to expand for high crash. Is that my understanding? So that just seems
I don't, yeah.
not consistent policy.
In terms of what I'm kind of initially seeing based off of conceptual designs, it seems just kind of more ways to kind of narrow like I guess the view of like drivers if they're like making a turn, so kind of adding stripes so that like so they're not like cutting through quickly and in their turns and things like that. There's also I think like what do you call plastic
Flex
Flex
bollards.
Well, it's
posts.
like, yeah, like flex posts.
So
Yeah, I
those are
see
some of
those
the
plastic,
things
They
let's
just get
not
knocked
do any
down,
more
yeah.
plastic flex
which
posts.
the town engineer did mention in one of the meetings too,
That-
so.
They're just very ugly looking. I wouldn't want them in front of my house.
And they can be noisy, that was definitely, you know, some of these measures can be noisy, you know, sort of with the hump and the, you know, flex post and what have you, so there was good rigorous conversation around some of those things. And I'm imagining that some of this will circle through too with the tool effort, the master planning, the traffic calming master planning effort as well, so I would imagine we'll be circling back on this.
So will that be something that there'll be a public process and getting input and feedback on?
For the results of this specific Vision Zero effort with the MPO, I'd have to talk to engineering about that.
Cause
They
it's
were,
not
they
a
really.
state road.
Right, well, I think
So we
the
would have
state road comes up to a certain point on West Squantum, but that was another thing that came up too, that there was a understanding that the state road came up further on West Squantum, up the hill towards Quincy, and it really doesn't come up as far as maybe was understood. So it's yeah, so we can circle back with engineering about that, about sort of like what the next steps look like, and if there's, you know, how the funding's gonna work, you know, there's more questions to be answered, and I think this was sort of like these are like quick build, right? So there's kind of like a tightened time frame to sort of, you know, do the assessment, do the walk audit, get the concepts in place. It's sort of, the process I think is intended to be sort of like that quick, you know, kind of low hanging fruit or whatever. But yeah, we'll follow up on next steps and keep you guys in
Yeah,
the
and is
know.
I'm sorry, did you say this is available? Where can somebody see what the current plan is for this?
I know they shared
Like the
the
design
final
Mhm.
deliverables with us, so, but I don't, this isn't posted on our website yet, but this would definitely be
Yeah,
good
oh,
to,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so.
Yeah, we can,
Cause
I
there's
mean,
been
we
a
can
lot of
have it in there.
discussion and concern about the Adam Street Squantum
Yeah.
intersection as well,
Yeah.
which what they're trying to do there is create, you know, again, they were starting off trying to widen it and doing the land taking, and again, to Maggie's point, rather than slowing it down, they were trying to make it wider, which is only gonna bring traffic in faster on that
Mhm.
area, as we all know,
Mhm.
cut through traffic. So I'm concerned, and they were also, we learned that they weren't the plastic bollards, we thought they were, but it's more of striping, but it was a bike lane that goes to nowhere. So it was a bike lane that started at Helen and then ends, so a lot of the neighbors have issues with that proposed plan, and that's not a safe road.
This is at Adams and
Squantum.
And Squantum, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the other
So-
side, of the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, so I'm wondering if, anyway,
Well, if we share it in your packet, in your
That would be
folder
great.
for next
just to take a look.
meeting, and then that way that folder is public, it can be shared easily with
Right.
people that might be
Cause
interested.
as much as I love bike lanes, sometimes, you know, what happens is they try to put it in with all of these cars that are racing through, and
Mhm.
I think, you know, sadly, what just happened in Roxbury with the, you know, the woman who works in, you know, so who specialized in that was hit by a car. It's just, the
I heard
drivers
about
these
that,
days
yeah,
are
it's sad.
Mhm.
really, it's really scary the way people drive now, and sometimes when you're putting traffic and bikes all together, it's if it's not done the right way, it's can be problematic.
Yeah.
All right, that's great, thank you.
Very fair. All right, so let's see. So these were just some more of the more detailed information about some of the 40B projects. 440 Granite, 71, 73 Warren, Trustlow, which is at 936 Brush Hill that we just talked about, 40 Access, which is the prior 728 Randolph Ave, and 485 Blue Hill Parkway. Just, you know, different levels of monitoring and staying on top of documentation for those projects as they move forward with the building permit process and what have you. Not much more to report there. So, and we've noted the changes and the update. Do you wanna pick that up with the MassWorks for East Milton, Avanti?
Yeah, so I followed up on the, I believe, turning movement counts. Talked to Sky and Engineering, and he said that they're going to move those to the fall.
Oh, wonderful, great.
So that, yeah,
Thank you.
they collect it at a time that's like more accurate
Yeah.
in terms of like the traffic
Great.
that's in the area. And that's not supposed to delay the project at all with that change, so.
Thank you.
Anything else on
I think that's all I have,
that? Okay.
so.
So that letter was in your packet, the final letter to the library trustees about the parking RFP. That was in your folder. It was sent this week. I connected with the chair of the Shade Tree Advisory Committee.
Wait, can you
about
just go
the-
back to the library question?
Oh, yeah.
So I thought I overheard, somebody talking that the library is getting like a big $400,000 generator. And that the placement of the generator is going to be at the front of the building.
It already is.
No, but even,
No,
that's, even, I think, more in front of that.
Like on Reedsdale?
No, on Can't Ave. So I'm kind of wondering if that's like the best place for it. You know, do we have, I don't know who to contact about it. I just overheard the conversation, so I just feel like the Garden Club and the town does a great job preserving the front facade of the
Where would
building.
they put it, on the lawn?
I think it's in a planting bed, like not where the Garden Club, not the U shape, but to the right over there. And you know, it's pretty
So-
big.
Cause they have one right by the parking lot.
Yeah, so there is one there, but I think it could be
Huh.
in front of that. So that's what I was just, like, I just wanted some information on it. I didn't get the exact location, but I was just concerned that it's going to be this big, huge generator at the front of the building. And, you know, usually I have a generator at the nursery and we have it at the side of the building, and usually when it's a very big,
Yeah, that's,
you know, piece of equipment, it's usually at the back.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of wondering why they chose that, and Canton Ave is a historic road. And I don't know if they have to remove any trees or plantings to put it. So I don't know if anybody's heard anything about that.
I definitely can follow up with the library director. I'm sure
Yeah.
he'd know. I'm happy to do that.
And again, I'm not, you know, saying that they shouldn't have a generator, I'm just saying the placement is questionable.
All right, and speaking of trees, reached out to the Shade Tree Advisory Committee just to kind of get the ball rolling on the trees for their review of the trees for the 440 Granite Street project. That was one of the conditions of the site plan approval. Let's see, what else here is noteworthy? Just kind of gave you a quick update on some things like the big types of topics at the TRIC meetings, the regional planning meetings, the language accents project. I think Avante shared on that, you know, sort of the success from that pilot at the food pantry pop-up event. So let's get too far up.
Before you move on from that,
Yeah,
add a comment on that last category.
yeah.
I, just so others know, I had reached out to Liz because in prior years, I've had a membership in the American Planning Association and then the Massachusetts chapter. And I've asked Liz because my membership's expired, to have it reinstated. Just, I wanted to put that out there for others. They do offer workshops, they do research, they have reports, there's a magazine. There's a lot of good content, and so I encourage others to ask Liz about getting that membership.
That's awesome, definitely. And I'm working on it, Cheryl.
I'm not meant to be a nudge, it's just meant to make the others aware of this.
Yeah, no, it's good, I'm glad you did. All right, so, let's see, anything else in here? I think that's pretty much it. I think
That's
I think
great.
that's more than enough.
That's great.
So you don't
That's
want,
really
you don't want me to
Put
ask
everybody
another
to sleep.
question? So I heard the other night at the selectmen's meeting that that they're going to be requesting additional funding for upgrades on Franklin and Bassett for a water project. And I think a member asked if the Falcones are going to help pay for that upgrade. And the answer sort of was no, that they're contributing to maybe paving. So my question is, while they're doing this upgrade, are they looking into the possibility of people along Franklin and Bassett doing EDUs? So is the upgrade going to accommodate the future of more density in that area?
Mm-hmm.
So is it just a replacement, like a like-kind replacement, or is it a true like upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, kind of what's the difference? Cause I know we've talked about the costs that come with the developments and having the developers pay for or contribute some impact fees
Mm-hmm.
for the impact of their developments.
Mhm.
And so I'm just wondering if like is it just gonna be a like kind, or is it actually gonna be an upgrade?
Okay, like a one-for-one swap in
Right,
terms of, in
right.
terms of capacity.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
because I thought when we were discussing MBTA zoning, I thought the testimony was, oh, we have plenty of capacity in our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if we really do.
Okay.
All right, Liz, thank you so much, that's great, really appreciate it. Yes,
I think the matrix is awesome.
Oh, good.
We haven't had that document
Mhm.
in my time,
Mhm.
and it's very hard for residents in the town, and quite honestly, even for members of the board, to consistently have a grasp on everything that's going on, and there's a tremendous amount that's going on, so credit to you and Martha for putting this together, this is excellent. There's a column that's indicated as priority.
Mm-hmm.
Do you envision using that column to flag what might be a priority task? Is that your thought?
Yeah, I mean, ideally it was something that the board would weigh in on.
This board?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, we have things that are deadline driven.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's really just kind of, it's getting our leadership from you folks,
Yeah.
like what you wanna be studying, what you wanna be focusing on. So yeah.
I see the matrix as being like fresh and new,
Mhm.
and I think what you and Avante are doing are tweaking and adjusting and modifying, improving it as you see opportunities to do so.
Mhm.
So, am I right? Is that your intention? We have a section at the bottom which captures a number of things that I think you just wanted a place to be able to have them. Is that what that's for?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, those were things that, you know, the project review status. Yeah, I mean, ideally, like we're sort of working towards a system where when we go into these monthly meetings, we're coming out with a pretty good detailed summary of like what's going on with each one of those projects. Like, so ideally, I'd be able to answer you and say, oh, that water upgrade is this,
Mhm.
because at our meeting last month, the discussion was this, right? So, and so, yeah, that's the goal. And then, of course, there's those additional items below, those multiple items that came out of our, you know, kind of goal setting discussions around different, zoning amendments and some different planning initiatives.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in a couple of different buckets.
Great.
Really
Thank you.
Okay, so
Cheryl.
oh, Cheryl, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
To Sean's point about that spreadsheet and the tracking, we spoke several meetings ago about short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And I'd like to suggest that our next meeting, we put that on the agenda so that we can begin to be prepared for a Springtown meeting.
Yeah, I think we can do that. It'd be a good meeting to do that. Okay, so with that, we can move to our public comment. If there's anyone here in person who would like to speak to on any issues, please feel free to come forward, or on Zoom, you can raise your hand. If you'd like to come, yes, please have a seat. You can state your name and address for the record, please.
Nice to meet you all. Omar Al Assad, 1263 and 1265 Brook Road.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. So I'm here to share with you our feedback and also some concern regarding the new bylaws for the short rental, term rental. So myself and my wife Serene, our 4 kids, have made Milton our home since 2018. And we live in a multi-family where we used to live in one unit and rent out to long-term rental another unit until 2025, where we welcomed our first baby Lila, and then we welcomed another baby Malik, so 2 young kids. We needed heavy help from our parents and in-laws with taking care of the kids. So we could no longer have, we needed space, so we could no longer have long-term renters in our other unit, and we needed to have this unit for our parents for support. However, we don't have our parents all year round, and we lost an important part of the income that was helping us paying our mortgage and affording a house in Milton. As you know, is extremely hard for family like us. So we were relying on that additional rental for paying the mortgage, but now we lost it, but we need some way to compensate for this. So short-term rental was really a lifeline for us. It helped us a lot to bridge the gap and be able to have our parents for part of the year when we need help, and when they are not there, we could have them help us. We could have this unit rented to in short-term rental to get some income to help us. We are all for a good behavior in terms of renting, but we have a big concern with the cap of and the limit of number of days during the year. Because let's face it, we don't know in advance how the year will be, and if we have our parents for part of the year and the limit is reached, and then we could not afford to have the unit empty for the remainder of the year because we won't have income that will help us with our mortgage. Plus, we will still have to pay the electricity, the bills, keep the house heated, and there is, in addition to that, a logistical nightmare because we need now we have a crew that comes for the cleaning. So we train them to how to clean the house, and we trust them so they do this automatically. Imagine if they have to leave for the remainder of the year because we don't need them, then we need to have new crew, new retraining. So it's really a nightmare for us to handle. Plus, short-term rental is really seasonal thing. It's not the same all year round, and also the income that comes from it is the same. It's not the same in winter compared to summer. So if we use all our day in winter, and we have the house empty in summer, so it's pure loss for a family like us that use this kind of income to help us. So we would like really to raise this concern that the limit of number of days will be a huge problem and huge concern for us as people who are using this as a way to complement our income and also pay our mortgage. And also I wanted to take the opportunity also to share our feedback as homeowners in Milton that this is really positive things we feel for Milton as well. Because Milton by nature is not a touristic destination. So the type of people we receive in our houses, most of the time our families will need to visit families here in Milton or nearby, or we have families who have kids who attend camps in the area, so they needed a place to sit. So they come stay with us for a week or sometimes for a weekend to visit family. And because we are near East Milton, they really enjoy going to the restaurants in the area, seeing the food center area. They give us really glowing feedback on how they enjoyed the businesses around that area. And we see this in the comments they leave for us and the 5-star review we get. So we feel it's also a good way to bring business to the town and make this town vibrant as well, to get families visiting the town. And really, if we lose that capacity to do so, we will not be able to bring this business as well to the town, and we will be just penalized and losing business for other families. So we are all for responsible renting, but we really would like you to consider removing that cap from the number of days per year. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before Roman leaves?
Yeah.
Thanks for your email. We had your email this afternoon.
I appreciate that.
So appreciate that, Omar. So would you suggest no cap?
Yes, yeah, that would be the
So
ideal.
it could be rented for 24 hours.
No cap all year round, because we don't know in advance what will happen during that year. We don't know how often we will need the house, how often it will be empty. The mortgage will need to be paid anyways. Mortgage is 365 days a year need to be paid. So in that year, we don't know in advance. Some years we may need it all year, some years maybe we won't need it all year. And the fact just to put a cap will create just a logistical nightmare in addition to managing a family of 6 and managing parents around. So we would like to relieve from that part. And I understood one of the main reasons about putting a cap is to avoid having corporation to manage houses in Milton and rent it all year round. But I believe there should be other mechanism to avoid that by ensuring that homeowners who live in the house like us are renting those properties. And I believe this would be good mitigation against these kind of issues.
Shawna, were you asking about the minimum stay?
Minimum stay.
Okay, so so there's been discussion if there should be a minimum stay of X amount of days.
Right.
I don't know if. are
Yeah,
you
I think
allowed-
that's important also, that there should be no minimum stays allowed, because most of the people we get come here for a weekend. This is the majority. They will come from Friday, leave Sunday. And some of them will be here for a week. That's another type of visitors, but I would not say those would make the majority of them. There will be 2-night minimum, which is the majority of the stay. However, I would say even 1 night sometimes is useful, because we have sometimes orphan nights where we have a weekend and then people leave Sunday and another group come in Monday, and then you have a night that is empty. So if we don't have this possibility as well, this will be yet another issue for handling. We, as homeowner, we always put a minimum stay of 2 nights, and we only allow for a single night when it's an orphan night. So that's why putting like a constraint on that will also add an additional hurdle to manage as well, that part of the activity.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Deborah Belton, 20 Willoughby Road, town meeting member, precinct 2. I just want to make one comment. There was discussion about talking to different stakeholders, and I just want to remind the board, and I'm sure you all know, that there are a lot of, we have senior communities here, Fuller, which I'm executive director emeritus. Fuller is one of the largest taxpayers in town, over $600,000, and has 400 residents. Home Inc. also pays a lot of taxes, and so does MRE. So that any kind of stakeholder discussion should also, I think the senior community should be reached out to. So, but I'm here also, and I really appreciate, it's so great to hear somebody who actually has an Airbnb. And I want to thank you for addressing this issue. I have thought about this, and I brought it to you when you started working in the summer on what you were going to put in the fall town meeting. So to me, I want to protect the characters of the residential neighbors. And I think when we write any regulations, I remember from law school, is that, you know, we not impose any unreasonable regulations. And so I just ask that the board think about that when they think about whether it's limiting, you know, the days or any other limitations. So that there aren't unreasonable regulations, and if we are going to put limits, who is going to enforce those? So, for example, the 120 days, which I think you made a very cogent argument against that. You know, who would enforce that, the 120 days? Nobody's gonna go around and ask, well, did you have somebody this weekend, or how many days is it now? So I would just ask you to be reasonable. In looking at the draft, we had a discussion at my house before I came about adjacent properties, and I think maybe that was in 3B, just kind of more of a definition of adjacent properties. I think even the definition itself lends itself to many interpretations, so that we know what you mean by adjacent properties. I think that, you know, to me, I think the health department should not be involved unless there's a complaint. You know, you can get too many agencies or too many departments involved, and I think that it becomes very unworkable. But I thought the draft had a lot of good things, and I think the example that the gentleman just gave about that he lives in the home, and that I think makes a big difference, so I was glad to see that in the regulation. So I just wanted to thank you, and good luck on the final product.
Thank you.
And I'm not seeing any hands up on Zoom. Let's see. Anyone? Okay, so then we can move to item number 4, our short-term rental discussion on the draft bylaw. And we have Robin Stein. Carolyn Murray could not be with us this evening, so Robin is joining us from KP Law. Is she? Do we see her?
I think she just came in.
Okay.
She's on the screen.
Great, so we can invite her to join us.
Hi, Robin.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
So dark on your screen there. If I can get some more light going in the background here.
Terrific.
Not dark where I am, I can assure you. But good evening.
There you go.
There
That
you
light,
go.
that's
That's good.
Okay.
Terrific. So Liz and I spoke earlier with Carolyn, and she was gonna sort of give you an overview of where we were with
Reconnect, yes.
with the bylaw, a recap. There are a few things that we need to finalize and sort of put placeholders in and plug in some language, just so to get it to a more final form. So I thought maybe we could walk through those, confirm there were things that we had taken out last time that we had said, let's delete that, and Carolyn's comments were in there. So does that make sense for us to walk through?
Sure.
Those items, and Liz, do you wanna walk through that discussion and
Sure.
just touch base with?
I'm just gonna hand these around. These were the materials that, and I put these in the packet as well, Cheryl, or in the folder,
Items
just
and
late today. I didn't have a chance to get these out to everybody, so here they are by
These are-
hard copy. Some of the comments that Maggie had collected.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else? Do you need a copy? You probably don't need a copy, right?
I do not.
Perfect.
Is that in the folder?
It's
in the
folder,
folder.
Oh,
you
okay.
good? I mean,
I can pull it up,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I'll pull it up.
No, I haven't, thank you.
Okay, then you, I,
I'll keep one.
okay, great.
Just came in this morning, so I was,
No, sorry for the delay.
no worries, just.
So when we get to
just,
that point,
Just trying to make sure everyone had it, didn't want anyone to get, whatever. We're all working off the same information here.
Liz,
So-
excuse me for just a minute, so
Sure.
there's two documents you're referring to, one,
Yes,
the purpose document, and then
Yes.
second, the comments. So
Yes.
you guys want either of these, you got both of them.
Yep, I've got both,
Yeah.
thanks.
and I think we'll probably, I mean, I guess we could, if it made sense, to talk about that purpose
Purpose.
suggestion right off the top, because that's the first section of this proposed bylaw, on short-term rentals. I'm happy to do that right now, or if we wanna hold that after we kind of review the comments and the edits and what have you from the last meeting.
I'd like to talk about the purpose, yeah, and who is the author of that document?
Me.
Okay. You know, I'm gonna share a concern I have, and I think this takes me right back to, this document purpose takes me back to the concern that I have.
Sorry, before you proceed, can Liz share the document on the screen?
Yes, I can do that.
Thanks.
and while she's doing that, I'll say, Carolyn reviewed this and didn't have any problems with it.
Okay, that's good.
She said it's more than we probably need to say, but she does, if that's something that we wanted to adopt, she did not have a problem with that.
Okay, I didn't understand it, to be honest with you, I was looking back at the draft, and the purpose was pretty, was simply much shorter than the purpose in this, I didn't even know where it came from. But it triggered. Cheryl, are you okay with me going ahead?
Can you,
You're muted. Yeah, sorry, thanks, Sean,
Sure.
for waiting.
Sure, but it triggered for me, probably, deeper thought in terms of what we're working on and all of the challenges embedded in this. And, I think there are so many considerations, so many. And the considerations are everything from the considerations the resident that just joined us tonight and sent the email this afternoon to us today raised. His situation is probably unique to him. He owns a two-family property, he lives in one of the units, and he utilizes the other one, either renting or using for family. That is a unique situation. Not every short-term rental will be that one. But I think as you go through the town, you'll find, probably a great variety of situations of rentals. In our last meeting, we talked about departments within the town and what responsibilities different departments would have. We have yet to hear from those departments. And I think if there's anything we're responsible to listen to as members of the board, in addition to listening to our residents, is listening to the employees of the town that are responsible for enforcing whatever we create for bylaws. We've yet to hear from them. We just heard from the speaker tonight, Tucker Felton, who doesn't feel like the Board of Health should have anything to do with it. We've been talking at length about what the Board of Health's role is, and we've written into it what the Board of Health should. And everybody's entitled to their point of view, anybody that comes to speak here. I looked at this document this afternoon, and, there's 11, and now we know this is written by one of our members, which I appreciated, but, there's 11 intentions that at least one of our members has recognized here as intentions that Maggie, as a member, believes we are trying to achieve. What, I guess, to not take a long period of time to express my point of view, we are moving way too fast for something that is as important to the town as a short-term rental bylaw. We're not nearly prepared in terms of the time that we have between now and town fall meeting to do this right. And I am 100% opposed of any effort to try to get this to town meeting in the fall. I don't think we're gonna serve our residents well. I don't think we're gonna serve our town well. I think we're gonna make mistakes, and we're gonna write a bylaw that we're gonna regret writing. And once it's written, changing it, and I'm not in favor of bringing something to town meeting and asking the body to pass it and saying, well, we'll modify it later if it doesn't work out. That's not good governance. And I don't wanna be a part of that kind of governance. This issue that's gone on has gone on probably for a lot longer than anybody was aware of. There's no need to respond and rush something as important as this without allowing all the stakeholders involved in it to have their point of view heard. There's no need to move that quickly and put this in front of town meeting in the fall. We have taken to town meeting bylaws that were not nearly as impactful to the town and extended the period of time for those particular pieces to get the proper consideration so that all the constituents could be happy with what was passed at the end. This is far more important to the town of Milton than those that I just referred to, that we allowed the time for it to be done properly. This is moving much too fast, and it's not gonna significantly change the fact that we have residential units in the town that are being utilized as short-term rental. I don't believe it's gonna increase that number significantly, and it's certainly not gonna decrease the number if we don't have it in the fall, if we have it in the spring instead. We will do better work as a board. We will serve our residents better. We'll have an opportunity to listen to more people. I don't think there's an awful lot of people that even understand that we're working on this. There's very little email traffic to us as members of the board. I don't know if you guys are seeing anything that you're getting separately. I'm seeing very little. So that tells me that an awful lot of people aren't aware of it. And I don't think that awareness should be reserved for the people that have a rental unit. I feel like awareness, if we really want to consider what's proper awareness, it should be everybody. Whether you have a rental unit or you don't have a rental unit, that's sufficient awareness to me. And I honestly don't believe the majority of the town has any idea that we're working on this. I just don't think they do. So I am a proponent of slowing this down, doing it right, having proper engagement with the town officials, listening more, to the residents of the town, and really thinking long and hard of the implication of what we're creating and writing something that we're gonna be, writing something that's gonna serve as much of the interest as we possibly can.
So has the conversation happened with ISD or the health department? I know that you had an initial conversation with Caroline, right? And I believe that the Board of Health spoke about it on Monday's meeting. I wasn't able to attend that. I don't know if you or Monte were able to. Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
I did get a chance to talk to Caroline. It's okay, Madam.
This is probably the time
Chair.
for you to, share.
Yeah, and I did get an opportunity to catch up with Caroline today. And we were able to kind of huddle for a few minutes at the end of the day with the building commissioner on this. And in a perfect world, we would have had a meeting, sometime in the last, 2 to 3 weeks where we really could have dug in on some of this. And folks just haven't had the bandwidth. So I feel like the consensus was that this was gonna be like a heavy lift for fall. I feel like that was, I'm pretty much the same sense that I had at our last meeting, you know? In terms of trying to, you know, figure out exactly what is the correct way to implement this and enforce it, right? Like dealing with that piece of this, which is such a major piece, which is the implementation and the enforcement. I was able to reach out, and I'll just be perfectly honest, just today to the fire chief, the police chief, and the superintendent of schools. I was recommended by the health director to reach out to the schools just to kind of get their input, and I heard that excellent suggestion as well for the senior community. So I made note of that. The only response, the police chief had said he was definitely gonna look at it and get back. The fire chief had said that he really wanted to take a careful look because he's heard issues with other chiefs, essentially. So he was definitely interested in you know, digging in and giving us some feedback on that. So that's really helpful. So, you know, that's where we're at. You know, ideally, again, we would have had the opportunity to be sort of, you know, huddling, you know, more intensively on this, but it just hasn't happened yet.
May I, sorry, I don't know if people see one of my hands raised.
No, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to suggest that while we have Ms. Stein here, that maybe we defer discussion of this type of these new documents that honestly, this is the first time I'm seeing them. So I would like to suggest that we move forward with the draft that was in the folder earlier in the week with Ms. Stein and the comments that Carolyn and Liz have put in there, and then come back to this out of respect for her time. Thanks.
But I think, and we can, I agree, and let's go through this, and then what Ms. Stein can also help with is explaining, which Carolyn, it was very helpful, that when you're looking at who's the enforcement agent, who's the, you know, who does the application go to when somebody comes in? When you have a zoning bylaw, the building commissioner tends to oversee zoning enforcement. But when you have a general bylaw, that would tend to go to someone like the Board of Health, who would then write those regulations. And so she said, we could do a zoning, you know, it could be the zoning path, and the building commissioner would be the person, the sort of the responsible party for oversight of these. But if it's general, it tends not to go to a building commissioner, because the building commissioner doesn't write the regs. The select board would write the regs, and and the Board of Health would write the regs. So that would be helpful in the end, just to sort of explain that to people, the different options of paths. But yeah, I think we can continue with this, but I think what I'm hearing from Liz aligns with what you're stating as well. And this is really important that this is done right. So
and that's sort of why you know, when we started this process, I think at our first meeting, I stated that I didn't have an opinion at all on short-term rentals. I didn't have an opinion if it should be prohibited. I didn't have an opinion if it was regulated, that I hadn't spoken to enough residents to feel comfortable having a point of view. I didn't know enough at that point when we started it, how the discussion was going to go. But since that time, and since we saw this draft, I have done more homework, and I have spoken to more residents, and they seem to be aligned with Sean's concerns. And I have reached out to, you know, other towns and their enforcement, code enforcement officers. And, you know, their biggest concern is removing housing from our regular housing stock. And that is why some towns have the owner occupied requirement, and they have a longer rental period. we've heard and, we have this housing crisis, and we've heard, for the past few years about the lack of availability in housing. And so the fear is by many communities, including Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, Watertown, they're the most restrictive. They have the most restrictive short-term rental bylaws because they are afraid of the loss of housing. So when I, had the time the past, week or so, my purpose was longer, and I know it's a long document, and I have no qualms if anybody wants to redline it to death. And it's easier to edit and remove things than add on the fly. But I also have, know that how important the purpose is. If any bylaw is ever challenged in court, the courts always look to what's the purpose? What was the purpose of passing the bylaw? So having a more expansive purpose, I think, is just helpful. And that's why I put this together, and all the intents, I know there are 11 and you could delete probably many of them, but those are kind of the things that I'm hearing from residents from all over town and all who live in different type of housing. And the gentleman who just spoke, he is in a unique situation because he lives there, and that's different. That's different having a person present.
So I do wanna
than not.
talk about it, but let's
Yeah.
come back and I think
So that
while
was
Robin
just
is
my,
here,
so that was just my,
No, and I
the
appreciate that.
purpose, and if you wanna redline it, that's fine, I don't have a problem with that. But I do think we need a longer purpose than what is in our, in the draft,
And it might be that people need more time to
look at it,
to look at this, okay.
All
right, so-
right, so would you like me to pick
Yeah,
up?
if you could, that would be
Okay,
great.
all right, so at our last meeting, there was a request to add protecting the character of residential neighborhoods. And Caroline's comment on that is instead consider enable residents to remain in their homes by earning extra income from their properties. Oh, am I mixing that up? Oh, I apologize, I'm mixing that up. That was not necessary, maybe deleted, but consider instead enable residents to remain in their homes by earning extra income from their properties. So,
Well, Liz, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but I just wanted to see if you could swap out what we're seeing on the screen, please. Thank you.
yes, indeed.
Yeah, and
So
I'm
item
lost
C, we had,
where you are.
so item C, we had talked about
1C.
1C, do we need to were we just gonna strike that?
Okay.
Because Maggie had mentioned, maybe that's not necessary that we say that. And then we sort of just put a pin in it and kept it.
Mhm.
But I liked what Carolyn, her suggested language. I think that would be, that says it in a better way, that just doesn't sound like it's for profit only.
Right, yep. And that goes exactly to the gentleman who spoke tonight, right? That-
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I think that ties nicely together.
So are
You
we
you
all-
can write it any way you want, but it might be real.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if you don't wanna write something that's real, I guess
No.
that's okay, but
No, I guess we thought it's sort of obvious and implied.
okay.
How's that, good?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, would you rather strike it
That's fine.
or just leave it as
That's-
is?
I have bigger issues than.
Yeah. I know, I agree.
Okay, so the next comment is on
So I'm sorry,
sorry.
Liz,
Yes.
so now that we have it there, item C, Carolyn has a suggested revision, right? So did we just discuss that, or are we discussing D?
No,
I
C,
think
that we
We're
liked,
talking about C.
C, that we
Yeah,
liked
okay.
Carolyn's language.
Right, okay, fine, I agree with that. Thank you.
All right. So, next item is the clarification between principal and primary dwelling. So Carolyn's suggestion is to swap out principal and eliminate any reference to primary dwelling. I think I went through it at one
Yep.
point and I think I found like
There was
4
like,
of one
yeah.
and 3 of the
Yeah.
other or something, so we'll just consistently use the principle.
Principle.
Okay. Alright, so there was some discussion about needing a clarification on long-term rentals. I think that gets picked up later in the document. I think there's a comment.
And I think we decided to strike the line that uses long-term rentals, so we don't need to define long-term rentals if it's not being used in the bylaw. I think was, but I,
Was that the, I don't know if that was the
It's
only
later.
reference. Oh, okay.
It is
And it's been-
later.
Oh, and it's been struck, okay, thank you,
and I
yes.
think we had struck
So,
that.
so what is the definition of a long-term rental?
31 days or greater.
31 days or greater.
And that's
So-
defined by the state. It's a state definition,
So short term would be 30 days or less.
30 days or less, correct.
So the occupancy and occupancy or guest, we struck both of those.
Right, so those, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that those have been struck. I don't know why I can't see this entire bubble here. Where are we? I should have. Board confirms the occupant or guest definition. Okay, great. Alright, let's see. Confirm deletion of the 4% cap.
Mhm.
Let's see. This was, yep, same discussion we've already had about the consultation with ISD and Health Department. Agreed on this one with the strikeout for K. Let's see, comment under P. Long discussion about if a long-term rental is needed, subject to long-term lease, requires written authorization of the owner and tenant at the time of submitting an application. Alright, let's see. Long discussion. Long-term rentals need to be defined, also whether the tenant will need an owner affidavit to apply for the license. Okay, delete N and knock it in the middle of potential tenant landlord disputes. If we want to include this provision, that is her suggested modified language. An owner shall.
I suggest incorporating her modified language, and to Maggie's point earlier about being able to remove things. If we remove it now, then it's not a topic for discussion in further public discussion, so I'd rather keep it, but have it be her revised language.
Yeah, I like the way that she added the written authorization of the owner, right? I think that further gets what we were trying to do in the discussions we had 2 weeks ago. Is there any reason why we would not want to include it, other than get in the middle of potential tenant landlord disputes?
Yeah.
Which we of course don't want to be.
Right. Certainly not.
It seems like an improvement upon the wording that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Cheryl too. I think to, if this is something that is gonna require further, further engagement, it's worthwhile to have that in there. To have that option still on the table and to think about whether or not you wanna make that opportunity available to long-term tenants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm in favor, I think Cheryl's point is keep the language in there, so we have it to discuss. you know, when we sit at the table with the people that should be sitting at the table, with the building department, the health department, whoever it is, I'd rather not have language gone that could bring us back to the topic that would be important to discuss with them, so I agree with Cheryl.
Ready to move on?
Cute.
So this was, you know, obviously a discussion to be had about time limitations or minimum stays, I guess.
We can talk about this for the rest of the meeting tonight. We probably should
Yeah.
just not spend all that time, because I think it's gonna be a healthy
Right.
discussion,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever you guys feel.
I think I've said before, I think this is something that needs public input.
Mhm.
We received some of it tonight, but I do think we need more of it. So I think keeping it in as one day is fine with me, it's good with me. But knowing that this will be something that generates a lot of discussion.
Agreed.
Should we do a wider timeframe from 24 hours to 30 days?
Yeah,
So residents know that it's up for discussion?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we should write, I think I'd rather put nothing in there than put in 24 days or even put in 30 days. Leave it as it's wide open. But I wouldn't wanna suggest anyone that we think that we're close with 24 hours, that we're just discussing 24.
So just keep it,
So my thought is a draft that's available for public view should have comments, cleaned up comments, not the extent that we have right now. But this would be one where we would say the minimum is 24 hours or one day, the maximum is 30. It can be something in between, and you know, some communities have X, some communities have Y. Just kind of set the discussion up.
Okay, and that makes sense, Cheryl, that makes sense, but I'll say that I'll never be in favor today or you know, a year from now for a 24-hour duration.
Me
I
neither.
just won't, so nothing will get me.
Understood.
Yeah.
I just feel as if this is something where there's a number of things we identified that are really public input is going to be extremely valuable. Some of it is probably pretty standard and agreed upon, but others of it requires a lot of discussion. And I anticipate there'll still be a lot of discussion at town meeting about some of these provisions as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cheryl, but I just, and I'd rather have the draft have, you know, a range of potential durations, but not as little as 24 hours. I mean, there were plenty of motels you can't get 24 hours at, you know, there are 2-night minimums. I mean, it's 24 hours is, I think if you pulled it down, no one would agree with 24. The majority wouldn't agree with 24 hours.
So maybe we should put 2 days as a baseline and then still do the rest as a comment that this could be increased.
But we should also let them know what the max would be. The max would be 30, right?
Well, that's defined earlier in the short-term rental, right? We did strike short-term rental, the definition, because we were trying to be consistent with not including general law definitions in here. But general law says that, defines that as 30 days or less. So, I mean, perhaps it's not needed in here, but if whoever suggested including in the commentary, perhaps that could be included in there, that,
I think for the average person that's reading this, that isn't familiar with MGL, and what the short-term, you know, duration is stated in MGL, it's helpful to put in 30 days, right? I mean, we can't expect we're gonna say to our residents, well, you should research Mass General Law and make sure that you understand what, you know what I mean, we're here to serve the residents, not to make things hard for them. I think putting in that range and helping them understand that 30 days is something for us.
so renting for an hourly rate or rental of duration is less than blank 2 days, if we wanna increase it from 24 consecutive hour, 2 days shall not be printed. How would you word that?
So we would wanna, I think, we would wanna strike renting for an hourly rate and then just start with rental durations of less than
2 days.
2
2
days.
days.
Two
Shall not be
days shall not be
permitted.
printed, right,
Yep, and just,
and leave it at that.
and leave it at that.
Rental
So
durations
I'm good
less
with that.
than 48 hours?
Rental
Durations
duration,
of less than 48 hours, or do you wanna stick with the number, or do you wanna go to days?
I think 48 hours
I think
helps.
we just say it's not allowed to be rented hourly, and it
Yeah, I
has
would
to
get
be
away from that,
rented for
yeah.
2 days.
I would convert it to 2 days.
I don't, yeah, just,
Rental durations of less than 48 consecutive hours shall not be permitted. Right?
and just keep it simple, and then
Right.
we'll get we'll have feedback on that. Okay. Lots of feedback.
So this next one was about the limits, limited to having the number of parking spaces were limited to the number of bedrooms rented, right? So it put, sort of put a cap on it, so people couldn't try to stuff 6 or 7 cars onto their property if they're renting out three bedrooms. So I think this does that. Cheryl, you had asked me to look into, the issue with the parking in the rear yard. We actually looked at a ADU application today that had the parking behind the house. So that happens, for sure. So there really isn't any limitation there. I think anything beyond maybe open space, like if there's an open space requirement or what have you, but I couldn't find anything, a limitation on paving in the rear yard, just as a note to that, Cheryl.
Well, thanks for looking into that, and I'd just like to put that as one of the things that we look at when we look at FAR, dimensional standards in open space, as potential zoning revisions in the future. That was one of the ones I hoped we might talk about for spring, earlier when I asked having that be an agenda item. But this is one of the things that I had in mind with that.
But isn't that, don't we have a regulation, either zoning, that there are no more than 5 cars allowed on a property?
So that,
5
yes,
parking spaces?
that language is here, about, and I believe it's in
Not to
reference
exceed.
specifically to temporary apartment,
No, I think it's just in our general,
just across the board.
across the board.
Okay, so
There
if
was
that's the
actually a
case, then
house-
that caps it at least at the 5,
Yeah.
right?
But should we say it in here, not to exceed 5 vehicles?
Again, I agree because I don't think we should expect them to go look through our bylaws
Right.
to,
And I will say that on Mechanic Street, there is a house that paved over their entire backyard and striped it with parking places.
So what I would suggest is referring to the section, I'm sorry, I have to disagree, I agree with Sean about not needing to go look at Mass General Law, but I do think that anyone who's looking at the zoning should be able to cross-reference and look at a different section of the zoning, because otherwise we're gonna have a real problem like with the recodification, where you have different definitions in different sections and different requirements in different sections. For parking, you should refer to one section on parking, and the sections that deal with the other parts should just refer to that one, in my opinion. So I don't know, Ms. Stein, if you have any opinion about that, generally about zoning?
Yeah, good evening. I tend to agree, and I think Carolyn has talked with you about kind of the intersection between the zoning and the general bylaw aspects of this, but you don't want to have conflicting provisions, certainly, if zoning's already regulating something. You want to be careful about that.
Right. This would be adding it, but it wouldn't be in conflict.
Well, if you're referencing the section that regulates that, then you're guaranteed it's not gonna be in conflict.
Right, because you're saying that the zoning says it's max of 5,
Right, and if
and
there's any
anything we're adding
question-
now
So
can't
just
conflict with that.
reference-
reference that, yeah, and honestly, I'm only coming across it in specific reference to temporary apartment, so I'll need to find that more specific reference. It may be,
Yeah.
under this residence A, B, and C district uses.
Cause Carolyn's note says, in no event shall creation of a temporary apartment reasonably require more than 5 vehicles be garaged, right?
Okay, but it does sound like that's something to circle back on for more
Mhm.
public input.
I mean, should we make a note that the town of Milton does not allow for overnight parking?
Well, don't we cover that later on in the house rules with requiring that the owner have that be part of the house rules and displayed?
Yeah, so that's good for the person who's renting. Do you think the average person in Milton knows that there's no overnight parking?
Yeah.
Most homeowners?
Especially if we're requiring it to be homeowner or owner adjacent, right? You know that. I think. Well, that we all follow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
that's
think we all know
right,
it, yeah.
yes.
Okay. So we wanna so we wanna reference the parking regulations once we have it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Meaning explicitly point within this comment,
Yeah.
within this line to that, okay.
But we still want a maximum of one per rentable bedroom, right? Because
Limit.
Limit, yeah, right.
I still think that's good, okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is when we get into the unknowns, the registration requirements. And I think we can't answer this. I think this has to be something between the building department and the health department.
So on that one, I think it could be helpful to know a bit more about what other communities have done. And I know Hal had done that kind of spreadsheet, but I wonder if, I'm just gonna throw this out. Perhaps Avanti can make some inquiries, email or phone calls to some of those communities and ask what their experiences have been with the method that they chose in their towns.
Not a bad idea.
That would be great.
And should, if that's something that we wanna ask Avanti to do, should we focus it on the communities that we largely base this upon to begin with? Like Lexington and Newton,
Good place to
start there?
Which have a lot larger staff than we do, so it might be a position that doesn't even exist, but it would be, yeah, I think that would be a good place to start.
As a starting point,
Yeah.
yeah.
As long as it would be good to get differing ones, so like ones that rely more on health and ones that rely more on the building commissioner, just to get a sense. So I don't recall, and I don't have the document
Yeah.
with, yeah. It might be that more than 2 communities might be worth getting.
I think last time we realized that the Board of Health, the health departments were mostly in communities with large septic systems. I think that's what we kind of deciphered from the communities that were.
So I know Milton has septic systems, but I don't know what percentage of homes
I think it's
have those.
less than 10%, Cheryl,
How many, Liz, sorry?
less than 10%.
Less than 10, okay, thanks.
So,
Okay. Alrighty. So we're sort of moving through this section then.
4D is the next.
Are we going back into these conversations about building code and et cetera tonight? Or are we sort of tabling that until some of this consultation with these other communities?
So I still have that question, Liz, that on D there,
Yeah.
where the initial inspection,
Hmm?
leaves it open to which department, but then the follow-up is by the building commissioner because of the state building code.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems the health department, from what I read from Carolyn, is mostly if there's a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems a good approach to me.
Yeah, I spoke to someone who does a lot of rentals, that's what her business is, and she says there's a big concern these days, with bed bugs. So, she believes that the health department should be involved, and definitely a yearly inspection, possibly even 6 months, but she just said that definitely the health department should be involved.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was gonna say, I think both the building commissioner and the health department should inspect initially. But then I was gonna say maybe the health department doesn't have to inspect annually, but now hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think.
I think it needs to be clear what they're inspecting for. The building commissioner generally inspects for different things in the health department.
Yeah, because
Right.
I think, wasn't it that the health does all like the housing, I forget, they focus on all housing issues. Like rodents and bed bugs and,
State sanitary code.
yeah, sanitary code and, if you are on septic, make sure you have to get your septic pumped. I had to get my pumped just last week, so,
So I think we can't
So
answer
hard.
this. I think we need to hear from the building commissioner and the health department.
So this is again where I would say, since we don't have experience with this and our departments don't have experience with it, that other communities' input would be helpful there.
Agreed.
yeah, and I think I mentioned it before, that because we do not have experience with this, sometimes it's better to be more restrictive at the beginning of a bylaw and then loosen up as we do get more experience. And then the staff can understand and have a better understanding of the problems that are arising.
Although we refer to our health department and building department as not having experience with this, I'm of the opinion they have colleagues in their positions in other towns that they probably talk to on a regular basis, Liz, you probably do, you probably know planning directors in other towns and their resources for you, so I think we should anticipate that they are probably talking with others that hold their same positions in other towns that have to deal with this issue, so when they come to the table, maybe she has to talk to them, I'm sure they're gonna have some informed points of view, even if they haven't had this experience.
They've had similar kinds of experiences,
Yeah.
and you said, that you can rely on others to have.
Yeah.
I would suggest tabling the fee discussion for that exact reason.
I
until-
would too, but
Yeah.
I thought we discussed just taking it out altogether,
We were just putting in an application
Right.
fee
Oh,
right?
as
okay.
established by.
Right, so no reference to a specific dollar value
in- yeah.
in
Oh,
the
so-
bylaw,
Oh, okay,
In
so
the bylaw.
just an application fee, period.
right, and then
Yeah,
reference that in the
established
guide,
by.
and the fee schedule that's separate.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you, I missed that.
And then I think that fee has to be,
Yeah, so just an
Established.
application fee, no amount.
Right,
Okay.
right.
The only, and I agree with that too, Al, I think it's the right way to do it because, we said this a while ago on something else, we don't wanna have to change the bylaw every time we wanna change the fee,
Right.
right? So there's good reason for that. But we wanna generate some discussion around what should the value be.
Mhm.
So back to Cheryl's point, when we take this out, it doesn't prompt us to have that discussion, so maybe it will, maybe just having in there that just rewrite something that the fee is gonna be part of the application, maybe that's enough to generate the conversation. But none of us will forget that, right?
right,
All 5 of us can't forget it, can we? 7?
But
All 7 of us can't forget it, can we?
but definitely, I think 252.
no,
Okay,
Alright, so next part, H, strike that final sentence.
Yep.
Okay, separate regulations being issued, and if so, by the select board, right, so, this might be a conversation that could be could be continued on, but there was, you know, part of the discussion I had with, the very quick huddle that I had with the health director and the building commissioner was that, you know, a path would be to be creating these regulations, you know, soon, like now, like let's get this going, let's get moving on these regulations, and as those are being developed, it's gonna crystallize really quickly, like who should be issuing them, who's gonna be taking applications, who's gonna be enforcing, and what they're gonna be enforcing, like what as that, and the meat and potatoes of those regulations probably is already in some of this language here, or most of this language here. But I think we can, you know, that would be my suggested approach, would be to be teeing up those regulations to be in on a parallel track with the bylaw, if that's how this moves forward, either as a zoning bylaw or a general bylaw. Because there's also some discussion as well about maybe needing to do a little bit of zoning in as part of this whole package.
And what we were discussed earlier today is that the Board of Health can actually issue regulations on short-term rentals, even before our bylaw, correct? So they can be working on them, and maybe that way they would feel more comfortable having the regulations in place before going to town meeting, so they know what, you know.
And they
How's-
just, so when they write regulations, it's just adopted by the Board of Health, that they
Correct.
have to adopt them.
Right.
I have a question about that. If that's the case, is any other town doing that without having a general bylaw or a zoning bylaw? And then also, I thought we said we needed to, I read Carolyn's comment about wanting to have the use at least defined in the zoning bylaw. So how is it that the health department can just issue regulations on their own for this?
Do you want me to speak to that issue?
Yeah, that would be great.
Robin, thank you.
Sure. So, and I think Carolyn has kind of shared this approach with you before, but we certainly have seen communities that do this on a dual track. So they regulate the land use components of short-term rentals through a zoning bylaw amendment. And then they regulate the operational side of short-term rentals through either a general bylaw or a regulation. So the Board of Health always has the ability under Chapter 111 to pass regulations within the scope of their authority. So, you know, for public health, sanitary code, safety, that kind of thing. And so one approach would be to, again, get all the real land use components into the zoning bylaw. What is the use? Where is it allowed? Parking, those kind of things. And then the operational sides of it could be a Board of Health regulation. And, you know, for some communities, that does give an opportunity to have a regulation in place, test it for a little while, see how it works before they decide if they really want to put it into a bylaw or not, which is also an option. And to the extent that there are still things left over that really fall outside the scope of Board of Health and zoning, you know, you could look to do a general bylaw if you haven't been able to capture everything that you want to regulate. But since it's easier to change regulations on, you know, what I'll call the operational parts of this, if you do it through a Board of Health regulation, you have some more flexibility.
So, is it possible through the Board of Health then to limit it to owner occupancy, to limit how many days of the year, put a limit on the minimum number of days? All of that can come through a Board of Health with no vote by any other body?
No, see, in my opinion, I think that's where you start to stretch 111, and that's why we see communities do zoning amendments that are defining the use, the scope of the use, the nature of the use, combined with more of the Board of Health components of it. I don't know that you can defensively do everything that you might want to do for short-term rentals just under Chapter 111.
That makes sense.
It's a regulation.
And then, in your experience, is what's captured in this draft of a general bylaw capture what mostly would be in a health department regulation?
I think this, I mean, and again, I've only been involved with this since about noon today, and I know Caroline worked with you folks on it a lot, so, I mean, I did read it, obviously I wanted to be prepared for tonight. I didn't study it at that level, but my initial read of it is that you probably couldn't do all of this in a defensible way through just 111.
You could not.
Good.
Probably
You
not,
can-
probably, in my opinion, probably not in a fully defensible way. No,
Yeah.
which is why I understood you were putting it forward as a bylaw. But I think there's another approach where you could have a zoning bylaw cover a lot of this and then 111 cover the rest of it. Or a general bylaw cover the rest of it. But, you know, if you're interested in that approach, I mean, I'll talk with Carolyn about it. I'm sure she can make some recommendations for how you could draw the line between zoning and general side, whether it's a bylaw or regulation.
So my concern about that is it has a less public vetting process. And the general bylaw goes to town meeting, is that right? Yeah.
And you could say we're gonna do it through a general bylaw and a zoning bylaw. You know, it doesn't have to be a Board of Health regulation. I think the appeal in some regard to the scope of what the Board of Health can regulate is it does give you an opportunity to test some things and be able to make adjustments or make recommendations as to what would ultimately go on a bylaw that goes to town meeting. Because it's a little more flexible.
Would you be able to do the Board of Health without the zoning in place first? It seems like
Well,
what,
it would depend, again, I think, on what you're trying to accomplish through the Board of Health.
well, I'm just gonna put this because what's come up to us is that there are residents who are concerned about an unregulated use in their neighborhood. And so they wanted some way to regulate and have enforcement mechanisms. So I don't know if that helps you, like, think about what might be a better route or might be the most effective route.
I mean, I think, you know, I would need, and probably Carolyn would need, a little bit more direction from you on, you know, from a policy perspective, what would be the scope of what would just be in a Board of Health regulation and what wouldn't. So I don't have more detail to offer on that at this time, but you know, there are different ways to approach doing this, and you know, like I said, a lot of communities that we talk to are doing it on both the zoning and the general side in some capacity.
Cheryl, could I enter this conversation? I just have a question in relation to what you're talking about with Robin.
Sure, of course.
I think what would be interesting for us as a board, if Robin and Carolyn could take this draft document that we have and highlight for us the components of it that could go into a regulation. And at that point, we you know, so just, you know, we could probably do something very quickly if we understood what latitude we had for a regulation to address anybody that had, you know, accelerated anxiety about regulating. But instead of trying to, that might be the easiest way, if Carolyn and Robin can just take a look at it and say, hey, you know, we might come back, we might see 50% of what we have here that we can put into a regulation. It would be good.
Yeah, and if you could do the same with what would absolutely be best in zoning.
Yeah, I think whatever they don't highlight that could go into a regulation is, however you sort it out, it's either highlighted, this needs to be in a bylaw, you know, and everything else can go into a however you do it, just separate it. And I mean, do it very simply, Robin, don't move the wording around, just, you know, everything in yellow can be in a regulation.
I'll talk with Carolyn about it. Yeah, no, I will, you know, I'm obviously taking a bunch of notes as we're going so I can report back and make sure I don't miss anything. So we'll put that on the list.
Yeah, so I agree with that process, because in my experience with writing a bylaw, you know, the 15 years ago, and I think Sean mentioned it earlier, when you pass a bylaw and then it's very difficult to change it. So I'm stuck with a bylaw, and I was informed by my attorney at the time, oh, don't worry, just accept it now, and then we can come back and amend it. And that was 15 years ago, and if the bylaw still does not work for me, it doesn't work for town staff, it's overly cumbersome. And we've never returned, because the fear is it's gonna get rejected at town meeting. So if anything can be put into a regulation that is outside a town meeting vote, and it's more flexible with changes of time and, changes of philosophies, you can still go through a public process. The Board of Health still has meetings and residents can still go and voice their concerns. So it's not like it's happening behind closed doors. And I would expect that hopefully we might be invited to the Board of Health meeting, to listen in and offer comments. So I do like the idea of separating it and having it as two different documents.
Just a question based on what you said, Maggie. Is it the Board of Health who issues the regulations or the Health Department?
It's Board of Health who creates the regulations, and then the Department of Health who enforces it.
Yeah, I would say the Board of Health would adopt the regulations.
Yeah.
Robin agreed?
Usually it's done through the Board of Health at a public meeting.
Right, that's helpful.
Okay.
And it would be helpful, yeah, to sort of break this out.
It's sort of just like why it's the same principle, why we wanna have the fees in a different schedule. Same with this, what if we're finding that something's not working for the Board of Health and they wanna change it? Or they're realizing it's not as much of a problem as they've anticipated, so they can adopt a change much more quickly.
Good.
And then there was just one more point on that same issue about, if this was to go to the board of, the select board, would they be able to delegate that authority? And essentially, they can't, her response is they can't delegate it, but they can obviously assign the drafting and the work of creating the documentation, but the select board would ultimately have to be the body that would adopt, similar to the Board of Health being the body that adopts the regulation. Okay. I think that's a simple one about keeping things about fees and enforcement together. That's a simple change. Do you guys wanna make that change since we're talking about it?
Which one is this?
So this is moving paragraphs D and E from section 4, which I believe reference
The insurance?
registration certificate and smoke detector, carbon monoxide requirements. I think there's a recommendation to move that into one location. So under inspections.
Oh, I see what you're saying, I see.
Yeah, I think it was just for clarity.
Oh, right,
To keep-
yes,
to
yeah,
keep those similar topics
So keep all the
together.
inspections in one
Right, in one
header
section,
of
one
inspections,
section.
yep, that makes sense to me.
So just move from 4 to 5?
That's a good suggestion. I have not made any progress on getting in touch with the town's insurance advisor. This would be, I think the consensus was to get more feedback from the police chief on that one, so I have reached out for his feedback. Let's see. Confirm with Carolyn that this is provided for context, not just suggesting the language changes. Yeah, okay. So that was just adding that statement again about notwithstanding the provisions of the zoning bylaw.
And I think that this is a good way of referencing the parking count, right? With the exact section of the zoning bylaw rather than just generally the zoning bylaw, as it was earlier.
Oh, right,
right?
Okay.
We earlier just said notwithstanding anything in the zoning bylaw, but this is very specific as to where the person should look, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's see, confirm strike language.
Sorry, can you scroll back up
Sure.
to right there? So occupancy is not defined now because we deleted that. Is that something that should be defined?
Left back in.
I'm gonna,
On
I'm
here.
I'm gonna kind of rely on Robin.
Cause we scratched occupancy earlier on, cause
Out of the
that's
definition, but it
defined
does-
in Mass General Law.
Oh, it's capitalized here. So
Yeah.
that generally means it's a defined term, but we struck the
Mhm,
defined term.
mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I think this
I
was,
think I heard my name.
yeah,
I'm not sure what the question for me is.
So do we need to put that back in as a definition of a defined term, occupancy? Or is it clear?
I'll be honest, I don't know because I'm not sure what you cut. Let's see, let me go back.
Well,
So
isn't
it's under-
occupancy is just capitalized because
It's
it's
under,
the first.
it's under K,
Because it
one I.
wasn't there before.
I see that. I was just going back to the definition.
Okay,
No, it's just.
But Maggie, you're saying the notwithstanding wasn't there before, so occupancy was capitalized because it was the first letter?
yeah, I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that's, I'm wondering
If
if
it's
that's
just-
what,
it's
yeah,
the-
I'm wondering
yeah.
if that's what this is. Because I think it's specific, it's specifically for an instance where there could be confusion or conflict with the zoning bylaw, Robin. Like we kind of kept coming.
No, I think the point is taken though that the O is capitalized because it used to be the beginning of the sentence and maybe now it just needs to be made lowercase.
Mhm.
But you guys can certainly think about whether or not it's clear enough just as written, or if you think it needs some further defining.
Well, I guess what is this referring to? So if you're renting out 2 bedrooms, you can rent it out to 4 people. If you're renting out 1 bedroom, you can rent it out to 2 people. I guess occupancy also has a definition in the building code, like, I believe anyway.
I mean,
Is
you might want to
occupancy-
get some input from the building commissioner, on that.
Yeah, the other thing would be, is occupancy defined elsewhere in the zoning bylaw? I guess that's what this is getting at up above, okay.
Mhm.
I just wonder if there's gonna be questions about that as it goes to the public.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree, Cheryl, I had the same concern. Okay. Let's see, so strike language on lodging house and what have you. Okay, so the response on this was, oh, can the building commissioner designate somebody? And I think she just clarified that that was not her intent, was to have the building commissioner designate somebody to be able to issue a written notice of any violation, right? So her suggested language is the commissioner, instead this should read the commissioner. And strike designee. I think, is that how you guys are reading that?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to I believe it's just to strike or designate.
Yeah, because who would the designee be?
Mm-hmm. As long as we specify who has the authority to enforce, yeah, okay. Alright, so strike that. And what's the question on this
I
section?
think that came up at our last meeting because I asked, does the health department has the right to issue their own violations and the building department has the right to issue their own violations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think as somebody already, mentioned, under existing law, putting aside any local bylaw regulation, the building department, the building commissioner operates within the building code, the Board of Health, it's a sanitary code, so they are regulating for different things. So if you're creating a bylaw that's going to them responsible for doing certain things, you just want to be clear of under what they're acting or what the scope of their authority is specific to the bylaw and who can do what.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that provision right there says stop there, the commissioner or designee shall issue a written notice of any violation of this article. So really, I think her comment there, Liz, in the comments said building commissioner or health director, because it would be to respective violation, which violation.
Right.
Well, but the way it's written, you're essentially picking an enforcing authority and enforcer for this bylaw.
I see, okay.
And so I think, again, and you've already noted, you have some discussions to have internally about who's going to be responsible for enforcing the bylaw, who's going to implement the bylaw. And if it just says building commissioner or board of health, then, or health director, then either of them and both of them would have authority over the entire bylaw. If that's not what you intend, then, I think that's going to come out of your internal discussions though. Just to, who's going to be responsible.
Well, it seems to me if the health department, if we do something differently, like we just discussed, if the health department is issuing regulations, then they should be able to issue violations relative to those regulations. And the building commissioner should do those relative to the building code, in my opinion.
But it sounds like it's something that's going to come from your discussions, is what the ultimate language will be.
So this next section, per our 7-9 meeting, as listed in the regulations, strike in the amount not to exceed 300 per offense, some discussion about revoking the license instead of fines. I just wanted to note that. So are you guys comfortable with her edits there? That's right. Interesting. I don't know, this might be one that's makes more sense to table. For discussion about the, the mechanics of who's enforcing what and what their current fee schedules are, sort of what the current process is, and sort of, the right method.
I don't think we can
to-
answer that tonight ourselves.
And usually I think if there is a violation, and again, I don't know, but under zoning code, don't you have the right to cure? To cure the violation and not just be penalized or revoked?
I spoke with someone on the Board of Health and they said that for sanitary conditions, that's what they do, is they'll inspect it, they'll find them and then give them a certain amount of time for them to remedy that. before
That's
they-
what the building inspector
Yeah.
usually does. So I guess so I don't know if is that in conflict? And again, didn't we have a discussion at one point about the emergency going on someone's property? What constitutes going on someone's property and
Oh, the
issuing
inspection.
yeah. The inspector can only go on someone's property if it's an emergency,
Right,
and who decides what that emergency is,
unless they're invited in, yeah.
unless they
Yeah,
have to be
yeah,
invited
yeah,
in,
yeah.
yeah.
So this,
But I think what she's saying is we have to be aligned with the limit of a fine no greater than 300, and she refers to the zoning, I guess, right, isn't that what her note is? She's referring to the general violation section of the zoning bylaw provides, and then she articulates what's written in it. And it reads that each violation of this bylaw should be punished by a fine not to exceed $50 for each offense. I think she's steering us back to language that exists that's gonna cover what we can have in $500.
Cause 50, 100, 300.
That's what she suggested, yeah. For first, second, and third,
Mhm.
but she does say 300 is the maximum.
I
I'm
can
fine
tell-
tabling it, I don't know.
Yeah, and I could tell you what we did with the sign bylaw was we sort of took, I guess, anticipating recodification, we kind of took the easy route and we just pointed to that section in the existing bylaw
I see.
and didn't get into any more detail than that. So at least at a minimum, the signs would be treated the same way as anybody else that got pointed to that section of the zoning bylaw.
Okay, got it.
So that's a strap, that's one way to handle it.
So, all right, so that's good. So there's a lot of questions that we still have outstanding. And just for the purpose of time, Carolyn had a chance to look at these, but I think really didn't, it was my interpretation that she might need some more time on them to go through, or should we go through them tonight with Robin? These,
What's that?
Oh, the
some of the legal
additional
questions
this
that
was
Maggie had.
This was that second,
The second page, not, I'm
second
still,
set of
I'm
docs.
tabling your purpose for now.
Yeah, that's fine,
'cause
I'm good with that.
And there were 10, I guess,
Yeah.
well, Maggie, maybe you'd be better off. I don't know if you wanna.
And Robin, did you have a chance to
run
look
through
at
them?
these?
I read them
Okay.
this afternoon when
Yeah.
I, read this for the first time, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not trying to add any delay, but I know you do have more work to do on this, and it may just be better given the having just received them and my overall familiarity to at least give me or Carolyn a little time with it. I don't want
That's
to
for Carolyn.
misspeak on anything tonight, kind of get in my head. I'd want a time to study it a little bit. I looked at everything, obviously, this afternoon. So.
Yes, but even Carolyn said, you know what, I would just like to take a little bit of time with this because she said she didn't have an issue with the purpose, but she said, I just would like to take a little time with this to see would it make it better or is it not what items are in her interpretation. So I would be fine. And I think Carolyn said she could make the 6th, right?
Yes,
Said she could make the 6th.
yes,
She
yep.
did mention to me that she was going to attend your next meeting.
Yeah, which is great.
So, yes.
So I think
You did tell me that.
should we give everybody time to sort of look at this, read through the purpose, have sort of their comments or their
Where did these comments come from?
From just different, in my research, I've reached out to different attorneys in town.
Okay,
And so I've sort of
I
just
see,
collected
okay.
their comments, and
Gotcha.
again, it's their
so peer
again,
review.
they're, but
Okay.
they're preliminary comments, same thing,
Gotcha.
they haven't had a chance to study them, but it's what, certain things jumped out at
Okay.
them.
Okay. All right, so I think, is there anything else on the short-term bylaw that anybody wants to discuss? It sounds like if there's a pathway, on the 6th to maybe look at how we can, at least at this point, look at implementing regulations and who is gonna do those regulations. But starting with that until our staff is feeling comfortable with actually how
I think this is a totally new topic. It's just to pick this to the health department and the Board of Health without having had a conversation with them on something that we've had multiple meetings on. So if anything, I think we need a joint meeting with the Board of Health and discuss how they would approach this, if that is an appropriate approach. I don't think we should just decide tonight this is the first we've heard of it. I'd like to see what comes back from Carolyn and Robin about how you would divvy this up between regulations and zoning. And I think we need to schedule a public forum on this topic for sometime in September, when people are back from vacations and other things.
Liz
You know,
mentioned
having regulations that are, you know, rooted from what? From the research that we've had. I don't think it's something we can just kick to another board for now without having had a discussion with them.
No,
Well,
absolutely.
and that goes to Sean's point, you know, why rush things? It's such an important, such an important topic. So why should we feel rushed to get something done? Because we have so many unanswered questions and the lack of public input.
Yeah, there's no decisions made tonight at all, but I think the discussion that we've had tonight and what Robin has, helped us understand and what we talked about previously with regulations affords us a chance to consider that we might be able to create something before we get to a bylaw that might be beneficial to the town. So we need more conversations, we need more discussion as Cheryl's right, we need to talk to the Board of Health, and we
I understand that the select board discussed this on Tuesday. I wasn't able to watch the meeting, it sounded like you might have.
Yeah, I don't think I watched that part of it.
Okay, I'm just wondering what, because
didn't-
I don't know what that
see that.
discussion was.
Yeah, I didn't see that
Yeah, I
meeting.
didn't
Okay.
watch that.
Something more to do.
All right, so I think this is a good sort of place where we are. We've ironed out a lot of things and we know there's a lot of outstanding questions, so.
I would just also like to get an understanding how long it will take to get the feedback from the departments that Liz has reached out to. I understand she mentioned that the bandwidth. If it's not realistic to get feedback, I think we're just gonna be stymied. So can those departments give some indication of when we'll get their feedback?
can.
I'll continue to do what I've been doing, which is visiting people personally and and working with the town administrator and the assistant town administrator to try to pull sort of like a staff level effort together. I think there's definitely a desire to work together, and I couldn't speak to like an exact turnaround, time at this point, Cheryl. I don't wanna artificially say, something could be turned around in a time period when I don't know that. I don't have that answer yet. But I think
Because
we've got a,
if it's going to be something that takes a long time, I'm gonna suggest we turn our attention to other priorities. Honestly, I think we spent a fair amount of time in the last 2 or more months on this. And then we're gonna get to a point and just table it, and who knows when it's gonna get any traction again. And I feel as if that's not the best use of my time for the last 2 months. So I would like to at least get some sense that, yes, if there's going to be discussions, and we are going to get to a place where there's some direction for this topic.
And Liz, you had talked about doing doing a public forum on this, public hearing on the 27th of August. Was that the
Well, it
date?
couldn't be just a forum, not a
Or
hearing.
Did you
Just-
mention
so
August
I mentioned the 27th for the zoning hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Right,
yes.
because
The
that's the
15%.
only date that's gonna work
Yes.
for advertising
Yes.
purposes. If we're
But we
having a
just do a
zoning, we're
forum.
having a zoning hearing that night, it's a couple days before, well, actually Labor Day is kinda late this year. But it is sort of it's a summertime, people are away, I don't know, I don't know if that's gonna
So maybe
be.
Cheryl's point to do a public forum in September.
Yeah, I would wanna look at something after Labor Day for sure, to have people's attention And, you know, if the pressure's off in terms of timing for fall, then it creates that space to do some, to have these conversations and have the public input. And, you know, like I said, you know, a possible avenue would be to, you know, getting these regulations moving on a parallel track. So that when, if and when it does come to town meeting, you've sort of got that full package. You've got that complete package, you know, to present the, you know, the law and how this is gonna work, and, because those questions are gonna come.
Yeah, and I don't think, Cheryl, that it's been a waste of time. You know, we haven't, this has been a new topic for all of us. And, you know, I don't think any learning experience is a waste of time. You know, and I'm kind of a firm believer, slow and steady wins the race, and you'd rather get it right than get it wrong. And if it takes a little extra time and all of us, and I have to admit, I wasn't, you know, maybe you had more knowledge about this than I did, so maybe I'm a little slow in getting up to speed. So I have been actively reaching out to just a variety of people, and you know, I still haven't heard back from quite a few people. So another piece of information I thought might be helpful was, do we have any data around the average length of stay for the current 75 units that we have today? Like, where would we get that information from? Like the Department of Revenue, because I think that's where they, the Airbnbs.
My understanding is that people who operate short-term rentals on the Airbnb have access to that kind of information.
So I wonder if they would share it with
Yeah.
us.
I don't know.
I just want to clarify, I didn't say a waste of time. I said best use of time. Because, you know, FAR or other things.
Yes,
that
and
are,
I think that's important. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
So it's really what I guess expressing some frustration about, or trying to put some pressure on, is not to have it get to this point and then feel as if there's no motivation or less motivation to push it to a Springtown meeting, if that's where it goes, because those articles still have to be submitted in January.
But I also would rather see that spend a little time now and then go to town meeting and then get sent back for further study. To me, that's like more of a motivation killer than us just taking the extra time.
I mean, honestly, you'll have to admit that most people aren't aware of articles until they do get to town meeting.
Right,
Or
yes.
they're close to getting to town meeting.
But
And so it's very difficult sometimes to engage people before then. But summer is difficult, as we all have said. But I do want to make sure that we don't let this slide. That because it's hard to put something aside and then pick it back up later and not have to refresh your memory on every discussion, go back and read notes again. It's all fresh, and we should continue to keep the foot on the pedal, in my opinion, just to get it to a point.
I think we've done a lot of really good work. I think we've done pretty much as we can do as a planning board up until this point. And now it's how this gets implemented, which is the questions that need to be, you know, how does this get enforced? You know, you mentioned in your other meeting, you know, who's gonna enforce the 2-person per bedroom? You know, there's a lot of questions that I think the people who will be in charge of this will need to think about and be part of it. But I think the work that we've done is great, and has really teed this up to be able to go forward at some point.
I realize we're moving on and I don't wanna belabor this. We're talking maybe September to have a public forum to have public input and present where we are. By that time, we think we'll have input from fire, police, the different departments.
Yeah, I think that seems very reasonable to me. That's about, you know, 6 to 8 weeks out. We have a housing production plan public meeting scheduled for September 16th. So we'll need to factor that in. Maybe something happens at at one of the planning board meetings. Maybe there's just a press release in the Milton Times and some social media outreach and just let people know that this is gonna be a topic to be discussed as a suggestion. I don't know if folks are looking for something wider than that, but that could be a way to do it.
Okay,
Well, Hal, you get good comments on your social media posts. I was gonna post, but I thought
there's
that
a lot
was-
of them, yeah.
But I thought it was gonna be a
Yeah.
violation, but I think you get a lot of, I think that's good.
Yeah, I thought that, just trying to get that out there for, Sean, to your point at the beginning, right, like, a lot of people don't know about this, which is true. But I would argue that it's been in the Milton Times the last several issues, it's been, I had some healthy discussions going on. But I think that publicizing in the September forum would be a good thing to have. We, just for my own clarity, the August sixth, did we say that we were gonna try to do something more immediate though with that? I thought we said,
So August 6th was, I think that was because you had a conflict.
Yeah.
no, I know, but I thought, related to this, were we trying to have someone come in August sixth?
Well, I think that, I don't wanna speak for you, but was that sort of like if we needed to wrap anything up, right, prior to needing to submit anything and move something on for fall town meeting, correct?
Right.
Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
Might
if
be
that was when we,
advantageous, but-
I think someone suggested maybe having a joint meeting with the Board of Health, I didn't know if that was something that could be possible to have these, especially if we're looking at trying to bifurcate the bylaw with the regulations.
Yeah,
to have that conversation.
I can
Can I make a
circle back
suggestion?
with, yeah,
I think we all recognize the benefit of putting more time into this and having participation with people who need to participate. Rather than speculate on what can happen on what date and who can be sitting at the table and who can give a response. How about if our path forward was to leave our meeting tonight, you have a chance to talk to the chief of police, the fire chief, the board of health, the building department, and ask them how they could participate and how they'd be interested, right? And then when we get back together, we can share that with us with the board. But we can't, I mean, we're just kind of arm waving our way through this tonight, trying to figure out what's it gonna look like over the course of the next few meetings. I think we should give Liz a chance, just to talk to the people that we need to talk to and maybe to tell them that there's, the direction is gonna be spring, not fall. Now that we're not trying to make it happen for the fall, tell us how you can contribute to helping us understand this and do something.
And work together.
I still think that it would be helpful for Robin and Carolyn to look at the bylaw and, as you suggested, Sean,
Yeah,
what's reasonably in a regulation and what's in zoning. Because I think if that's the path that's going to be done, then we need to understand that sooner rather than later.
I agree, I'm not changing that. Robin and Carolyn can do that on a separate track, but, in terms of the town and who can help us, when can they help us, I think we need to give Liz a chance to talk to those folks.
We're talking about a Board of Health, probably a majority vote of 3 people on regulations, and zoning you're talking about for something like this, I believe, is a supermajority vote. And a general regulation, which I think requires a simple majority vote, is that right, Robin?
Yeah, general bylaws are a simple majority.
So it's a completely different path of approvals, and I think the public needs to understand that as well.
And one thing that Carolyn also said this morning is if we do a general bylaw, we would still actually then have to put something into our zoning, amend our zoning, because right now, it doesn't allow for short-term rentals. So it would have to somehow reflect that there is an allowed use. So we would need to amend the zoning if we're doing it as a general.
yeah,
Which I didn't realize.
that's this last comment here
Yeah.
on this final page.
Yeah.
That needs to be that.
Carolyn or I we'll get you comments on that issue generally, just what we see fitting where.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Terrific. All right. Robin, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate
Of course,
your time.
happy to help.
Yep.
Thanks, Robin.
And we're so
All right,
the work that KP Law is doing, so, and working with
well,
Carolyn.
we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if you know me, then I will hop off.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good evening.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay, so next item, is the fiscal year 2027, the mass budget, and zoning amendments, zoning act amendments. Do you wanna touch on those?
So I had uploaded this memorandum from KP Law on those changes for 40A for the zoning act. Did folks have a chance to look at it? Did you have any thoughts? Did you have any questions? I mean, I can just kind of quickly run through what those changes were, if that would be useful, or.
It might be good for the public, just to highlight.
Okay, great. So, our town council, KP Law, provided this summary dated July 13th, 2026. And it summarizes the changes that affect the zoning act in the House budget bill, or the budget that was signed by Governor Healy on July 9th, 2026. So there are multiple changes to the state zoning act. There's changes in sections 5 and 11, which deal with notification requirements on zoning amendments and special permits and what have you. And they're essentially allowing this opportunity to use electronic notification, but with the caveat that an assessor's department has to have a mechanism for providing a certified list of, say, email addresses as opposed to, the regular mailing addresses that are currently used. So that sort of, moves things forward in terms of, paperless and sort of streamlining things, but there's gonna be some work that's gonna have to happen there to implement that.
Yeah, so how do they know, what if someone doesn't have an email address? Like if you're
Right, I think that's kind of where some of this stuff is it's sort of to be determined how this is gonna get implemented, right? Sort of the reality of it. I don't know that, I don't know, I suppose there could be like an opt-in type of arrangement where if you wanna opt in for paperless notification, right? And there's some kind of process where you sort of like sign off on that, and then if something ever comes up where you're a certified abutter and you've opted into that paperless notification, right? So I could foresee a way that it could work, but there's gonna be some, there's some work to be done.
Yeah.
To make that happen. So in my quick conversation with the building commissioner, I think that this next change to section 6 on nonconformity protections, the extension or alteration of pre-existing nonconforming structures, his sense was that the town sort of already has language in our bylaw that allows most of what is contemplated here. So I need to circle back on that a little bit more, but it's essentially allowing you to alter and extend by right without a special zoning relief if you're on a non-conforming lot. So an undersized lot, you don't have the setbacks per se, sort of those sort of things. And so that, whether or not that's going to kind of open things up in Milton anymore, I'm not really sure. I'll probably have to kind of look at that one a little bit more carefully in terms of what's currently in the town's zoning bylaw for that situation. I believe there is an extension on from 2 years to 4 years for abandonment for pre-existing non-conforming use. So like if you had a store in a residential zone and you weren't using it as a store for over 2 years, it used to be that the use was considered abandoned. This is extending that protection to 4 years. That's my understanding of that. Expansion of protection, okay. So this next one, I can give you an example. The Gardner School came in and applied for their sign permit under the old sign bylaw. And then they were not able to proceed under the old sign bylaw because they hadn't been issued the permit, right? So before the new zoning was advertised and what have you. So this will protect folks as long as they get their application in before a zoning change has been advertised. They will have that protection where they can proceed under the old zoning. So it just gives people more certainty about their path in terms of the zoning, right? Because sometimes and with the Gardner School, a great example, they just didn't want to lose any time. And they said, we can't take the chance that the town is or isn't gonna vote this thing up or down. So they just kind of wanted to move forward. So under this new, this new language, those folks would have more certainty once at the date of application. They would know that they don't have to worry about whether or not a town meeting was gonna go up or down. So zoning freezes, 1 to 2 years. So this again sort of just enables, again, the owner, the developer, what have you, the interest, that they would have additional time and protections for other permitting processes to play out. So like you could have sort of like an ongoing issue with like, say, a Concom filing, for instance, and you've got your zoning permits, but you don't have your Concom. So this would extend those protections so that you wouldn't have to sort of start over from scratch while you're dealing with other permitting needs. Expansion of lot merger zoning protection. So this is going to allow currently single and two-family residential lots have already been protected from the lot merger provision, but this would extend this protection to commercial lots as well, undersized commercial lots. And so
Liz?
Yeah.
Liz, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So is it that it was previously that if there were two adjacent lots under common ownership, they were considered merged and considered one lot?
Mm-hmm. Right, and I believe that the housing, I'm not gonna get the right name, but the Housing Act, right? That sort of, it carved out that protection for single and two-family residential uses. It carved out that, it eliminated that merger doctrine, essentially, for single and two-family uses. So now this is extending that protection to beyond single and two-family uses. So multifamily.
To every use? Is it extended to every use?
Strikes residential use requirements providing protection for all lots. Yeah, okay. And so, let's see, easing of variance standards. So this is the big one. So this is the one that everybody was chatting all about on the Mass Planners listserv. And so essentially it takes the, I would always say with a variance, it's shape, topography, and soil or something, right? So there was like 3 things that you could legally, sort of issue a variance for, right? So and so what this is doing is it's broadening that, I think, considerably. It's taking it to what they're calling a practical difficulty. And so they're including things like soil condition, shape, topography. Okay, those are ones that were already, that was the standard. That's been the standard for decades. And then they're incorporating financial hardship, which I think gets on a de facto basis gets called in a lot, but it was never part of the zoning act that I'm familiar with. I think I skipped to the wrong page here. That's number 3. Oh yeah. So whether the benefit sought by the appellant can be achieved by some other feasible method, right? And whether the practical difficulty was self-created. So essentially, financial hardship, whether or not you can achieve that same method feasibly in another manner, and then whether you created your own hardship, right? So that's gonna be the standard that the zoning board is that's my understanding of where the zoning board is, the standard that is gonna be applied for variance. But again, this is all new. There's so much chatter about how this is even gonna be implemented and, so.
And this applies to,
Huge caveat.
does this apply to a use variance as well?
So, yeah. I would say so.
Not just a building?
I mean, I think so. I mean, don't quote me that Milton allows use variances. they're not necessarily available in every community, but my understanding is Milton allows use variances, so I would think so. I wouldn't think that this was just sort of like a dimensional variance or, but that's, again, some of this, I think probably will be tested, right? The limits of some of these changes. Let's see. Okay, so increase to the periods for variance duration. So again, similar to, sort of allowing other permitting processes to play out, and determination of appeal, various extensions of up to 2 years, provided the request is filed prior to the expiration. So essentially allowing the zoning board to grant additional time on a variance at their discretion, than was previously allowed, which I believe is 6 months, maximum of 6 months. So and then the second paragraph in this memo is the so-called economic development bill contains several different zoning related amendments, including commercial conversion to multifamily housing by right, allowing land held by religious groups to be developed as multifamily housing by right, and codification of site plan review. They're still in flux, have not been enacted into law. I know the Senate was debating their bill this week. It does have to go for reconciliation. And I think one of the big ones with the Senate's bill was the duplex by right. I don't know if that's gonna pass or survive. I don't know. That was definitely causing a lot of chatter as well. So that would take allowing single family to be converted to two family across the board as of right. So that's it on that. More to come.
Wonderful, thank you.
Not so wonderful, Meredith.
Not so a wonderful report by Liz, but yeah. No, that's the problem. These things, get voted and then it's like, but how are they gonna be implemented?
In the cost of it all, if all of a sudden every single family house can become a duplex,
That's- When does that go to a vote? That was not voted today, was
I
it?
thought was that today?
Floor debate Thursday today.
Yeah.
I don't see any news otherwise.
Yeah, I think they're still,
I think that's gonna be a tough.
they have until the 31st.
Okay, alright. Okay,
And they should be prepared to give some more money to the municipalities, which I don't think they're prepared to do.
well, with that was our last agenda item, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. There-
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
You need to do roll call, cause,
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
roll call, cause Cheryl's remote. Hal,
yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and myself, yes.